For the past decade or so, learning experts have been totally obsessed with one thing, finding the fastest way to master a new skill. And after all that work, they stumbled onto this single critical mistake that almost guarantees you'll fail. The really scary part, most of us are making it, probably every single day. So today, we're going to unpack that.
So let's get right into it. What if you could learn so fast it felt like you had a superpower? What if you knew the one thing that separates the people who pick things up like lightning from everyone else who just gets stuck and eventually gives up? Well, it all boils down to one simple idea.
Here's the secret. It's not about finding some magic trick or a perfect study plan. Nope. It's about avoiding one single, incredibly common trap that almost everybody falls into. So what is it? Well, to really get it, we first have to understand how our brains are actually built to learn in the first place.
Okay, so before we can talk about the mistake, we have to talk about how learning is supposed to work. Your brain has this fundamental learning engine, right? It's a super simple 4-step process, and you absolutely have to understand it if you want to get good at anything. I don't care if it's coding, learning an instrument, or even archery.
It's called the experiential cycle, and it works like this. Step 1, you have an experience, you shoot an arrow. Step 2, you observe what happened. It landed way over to the left. Step 3, you think about it. Okay, maybe I need to adjust my aim a little to the right. And step 4, you experiment. You shoot again with that new adjustment. See, it's a feedback loop, and it's essential. Without it, you're just flinging arrows into the woods, not learning a thing.
All right, now this is where things get really interesting. And it's where pretty much everyone gets it wrong. We think, oh, to get better faster, I just need to learn more stuff. More theory, more techniques, more information. But actually, the exact opposite is true. This is what's known as the theory overload trap, and it's the reason why learning more can literally make you worse at a skill.
And to see just how powerful this trap is, let's look at a real-world study of 2 students. They were in this program designed to teach them how to learn more effectively. So, just based on this first bit of data, who would you put your money on to get the better final score?
Okay, so take a look at these two. On paper, Suresh looks like an absolute rock star, right? He blew through almost a third of the course in just 5 weeks, and he started with a pretty solid 80% grade. Then you've got Enzo. He took over a year, 54 weeks, to get through even less of the material, and he started way behind at 62%. The smart money is on Suresh, no question.
But then, look what happened. It's pretty shocking. Enzo's grade didn't just go up, it skyrocketed to a 92%. That's a 30-point jump. But Suresh, oh man, despite all that effort, all that theory he crammed in, his grade actually dropped. He went from an 80% down to a 71%. He got worse. How on earth is that possible? Well, the answer has a name: cognitive overload.
So here's the deal. Your brain, right now, has a limited amount of working memory. Think of it like the RAM on your computer. When you try to cram too many new things into that working memory all at once, it just overflows. Nothing gets processed properly. Your ability to learn just grinds to a complete halt. Let's go back to our archer. If they try to focus on just one new thing, like stabilizing their core, yeah, they can probably handle that. But what if their coach tells them to focus on 5 new things all at the same time? Hold the arrow tighter, stabilize your core, relax your shoulders, breathe slowly, and aim lower. Their brain just gets completely swamped trying to remember the checklist. There's no mental space left to actually shoot the arrow and learn. That is exactly what happened to Suresh. And this leads us to what is maybe the most powerful and definitely the most counterintuitive secret to learning fast. And it's this: the fastest way to get better is to deliberately learn slower. I know, it sounds crazy, but it's not about how much theory you learn or how much you practice. It's about finding the perfect balance between the two.
You gotta walk this really fine line. If you have too little theory, you're just practicing aimlessly, making the same mistakes over and over. But if you have too much theory, you hit that cognitive overload, and your brain just can't make the connections it needs to improve. Finding that sweet spot in the middle, that's the whole game.
So how do you find that balance? Well, there's a really great rule of thumb you can start using literally today. It's called the 5-to-1 rule, and it is an amazing starting point for getting your learning pace just right. Here it is. For every 1 hour you spend learning a new idea or a new technique, you should spend at least 5 hours just practicing that one thing. That's it. This ratio gives your brain enough time to take that clunky, conscious new action and start turning it into a smooth, unconscious habit before you try to stack another new thing on top of it.
But look, that 5-to-1 rule, it's really just a guideline. The real goal isn't about counting hours. It's about forming habits. See, once a skill becomes a habit, it takes up way less of your brain's precious RAM, which frees up space to learn the next thing. So the real question is, how do you know when you're there?
You can actually feel it happening. The skill just starts to feel easier, more natural. You'll notice that you're getting faster, but not because you're trying to hurry. It just happens. Your accuracy stays solid, and your results get really consistent. When you start seeing these signs, that's your brain giving you the green light, saying, okay, I got this one locked in, I'm ready for the next challenge.
And that brings us right back to our hero, Enzo. He was self-aware. He realized that for him, turning a new idea into a real habit was a slow process. So he adjusted. His ratio wasn't 5-to-1, it was probably more like 15-to-1, or maybe even 20-to-1. To everyone else, he looked like he was moving at a snail's pace. But in reality, he was moving at the perfect speed for his own brain, making sure he never got overloaded. And that's why his growth was unstoppable. So really, the master key, the whole secret to learning anything fast and without all the frustration is this. You have to match the speed of your theory intake with the speed of your habit formation. Stop drowning your brain. Just introduce one new concept, practice it until it's second nature, and only then do you move on to the next one.
And that really brings us to the final question, the one for you. I want you to take an honest look at how you're trying to learn things right now, for your job, for a hobby, whatever. Are you patiently building one habit on top of another? Or are you just jamming your brain full of information, crossing your fingers, and hoping some of it sticks? Because the answer to that question is the difference between mastering any skill you want and guaranteed failure.